we wanted to talk about this because there are now almost 300, 292 to be exact, artists or songs on the Billions Club playlist on Spotify, even more on YouTube. And it's kind of this mark of like, I don't even know, like, what does a song getting a billion plays to you really mean?
Yeah, I think that's really the question too. Before like you make any kind of ranking list of what are the best songs with a billion streams, what are the worst songs with a billion streams, you have to really think, what does that mean?
Mhm.
And you mentioned YouTube has more songs. There are songs with a billion on YouTube that don't have a billion on Spotify. I think just for convenience, we just stuck to Spotify for this. But I think it's really important. I think for people to have the proper context with this, and there's a heavy recency bias to having a billion streams. That is quite obvious, just the way music is consumed with playlists and passive listening, but also just the streaming ecosystem we are in has only really existed for the last 5 plus years. So the music that came out in that time is the music that's going to get consumed. Also, more people have Spotify today than they had last year and the year before that and the year before that. So it is, I want to say, easier to get a billion streams, but you can do it, I think, in a faster manner. That much is clear. People are doing this quicker and quicker. So I think you kind of have to really analyze each individual song that has a lot of streams to determine why it has that, whether the song is genuinely popular or it's just kind of a mainstream artist song that came out and is also popular. Like, obviously, these songs are all popular, but how they got to be popular is kind of an open question. And I think it's really interesting to see older songs that predate streaming that do have a billion streams and think, oh, wonder why that song is so big on this platform, because
Mhm.
there are millions of people that listen to these older songs not on Spotify, for example. You know,
Yeah.
and I think it's very important to remember that the most popular songs of all time are not the most streamed songs on Spotify.
Yes, and it's I when I was listening through today, I think the thing that stood out to me was the song is either a legitimately great song, it's either a legitimately catchy song, or it's from an artist that is just so beloved by their fan base that the numbers get pushed upwards. And there might be a few that fall, out of there that just like right place, right time. Maybe some that were from a TV show or movie that really propelled it forward. I think one that stood out to me in listening through the Spotify playlist was Sting's "I'll Be Watching You."
Huh.
Especially that I didn't expect that to be Sting's highest song. I thought it would be a song from the Police on there, but the background for it on your phone is Stranger Things because it's from the finale, and so it's like, oh,
Right.
this song probably was somewhere in like the 300-400 range, and then this is in Stranger Things, and now it's propelled over a billion. So I was definitely interested by why a song might be on there, why it wasn't. And I guess as we go into our list, we're going to do our top 5 best songs that are in the Billions Club on Spotify and the worst 5 songs in the Billions Club on Spotify, in our opinions. How are you doing this list? What's your criteria?
Yeah, that's a good question. I just wanted to make an interesting list: songs I like, songs I don't like, um, because it's not like there's a complete meritocracy for getting on the Billions Club.
Hmm.
I feel like we didn't have to apply that to making our lists either.
Yeah,
So, like all list making, it's many factors, many variables here. But yeah, I think it's definitely interesting just to analyze and reflect on what are the songs that are getting streamed the most, are on the most playlists, etc. All the factors that we've said so far. Um, it is a bit eye opening sometimes to see what is actually being consumed in this manner.
absolutely. For me, when I was going through this list, I just kept like picking the songs as I was listening through that really stood out to me for whatever reason. And then I kind of went back and thought, like, what does this song mean to music, I guess, and what does this mean to like the culture in a way? And that's kind of how I went about picking the top 5 best for the bottom 5 worst. It was more. what was it that made this song get on the list, and does it really deserve to be in the realm with these other songs, in my opinion? And
Right.
we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. But let's start with the top five. Do you want to run through your top five, then I'll do mine, or do you want to go back and forth?
Uh, we can go back and forth.
All right, give me your number five then.
Yes. Yes. Getting my list here. Okay. My number 5 is a song that actually made my top 10 songs of the 2010s. Felt like I kind of needed to pick this. That'd be Redbone by Childish Gambino, aka Donald Glover from, gosh, that was 2016,
I believe
was it?
so.
Awaken My Love, right before that album came out. And there's actually two songs that made my top 10 songs of the 2010s that are on the Billions Club. The other one I didn't pick, but that's Lil Uzi versus EXO Tour Life is also there. But Redbone, I think to me, it's the best song Childish Gambino has ever made. It's the best song or I think it was a really important song for Donald Glover's career where he kind of showed that he was kind of above and beyond the kind of struggle bar nature that had accompanied a lot of his hip hop career to that point, and he had a very successful rap career, especially on the internet at that point. But by making this kind of like throwback soul song, um, which of course preceded this album that was of course filled with that, it really kind of I think put him as an artist into a new stratosphere. Definitely made him a lot more interesting to me, and it's also I think a song that's had a nice kind of cultural life. Of course, a really noticeable drop in the beginning of Get Out, famously.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think it's just a song that is a banger, but it's kind of like one of those atypical bangers because it's just kind of like a throwback, like soul song.
Yeah, it's probably the song that's lasted the test of time most from that album. Although I do enjoy quite a few songs from that album, and when I was listening through, a clear standout, I was like, "Oh, this is great!" That not only does Donald Glover, obviously, I think have a lot of success in a lot of realms, but the fact that he has one of these is just like another like feather in his cap, so to speak. So I was happy to see that for him. My number five, which I've been going back and forth on. So actually, I just changed up my list right before we started recording. Is Dynamite from BTS.
Oh gosh!
Absolute
Wow.
absolute banger of a K-pop song, and it's one of those songs that every time it comes on, I just have to listen through the whole way.
Mm.
And I think
Way to pick the
for
K-pop song in English. That's all
right,
I have to say.
exactly. Yeah, well, there's only so many K-pop songs on this list. I would say I think
Yeah.
this might be the
More
only
on YouTube for sure.
one.
Like Blackpink has multiple billions on YouTube, but none of those songs actually have a billion on Spotify, for example.
Exactly, and I expect that if we did this in 5 years, this is going to change. But I think Dynamite is just an absolute dynamite song, for lack of a
Hmm.
better way to say it. But it really, I think, embodies its placement on this list. It falls at like number, I think it's 85 overall on the Spotify most played
Hmm.
songs.
Correct. 1.463 billion.
It just it just shows like what a force BTS and K-pop are. There's songs on here that are more recent that are higher up, that obviously have more streams, but BTS, for this group that is, the Backstreet Boys, in sync, whatever you want to say, whichever comparison you want to make, for today's culture, um, they really have the hits. And honestly, like if Butter was on this, I probably would have gone back and forth between them of which one I wanted to choose, because that's another absolute banger. And I felt like we needed to represent K-pop in some way on here, even though it is in English. It's still an amazing song. And whenever I hear it now, I always think about their performance at the Grammys last year. An
Yeah.
absolutely stunning, moving, like actually moving the camera with them performance. It was really great. So Dynamite clearly deserves to be on these top fives in my opinion. And I think for the song I left off, which was Oasis's Wonderwall, I was going back and forth between them. I'm going to be talking about some other songs that kind of fall in the same vein, so I wanted to vary it up just a little bit.
Roger.
Dave, give me your number four.
Yeah, so my number 4 is I feel like a super basic pick. Earth, Wind, and Fire, September. Top tier wedding song, most popular Earth, Wind, and Fire song. Catchy as hell, but it's also really awesome. What can you say? I don't know. I feel like people know about it, and it is cool to see that a song uh, that old is over a billion. But I feel like it's a song that's kind of transcended generations at this point and is popular with everyone, basically.
Hmm. Yeah, it's an undeniable song. You said top tier wedding song. It might be the best wedding song. I think we could maybe do a list about that in the near future. But
Mm.
yeah, just absolutely incredible. One of the grooviest songs ever made, and deserves to be on any top five list. I excluded it because I knew you were gonna have it, but it would have easily made my top five if you didn't. So glad it's on there. My number four, I think, undeniable in a different way, is All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey. Because, man, it is the Christmas song. Like, literally, November hits and you just start hearing it. And it is almost synonymous with Christmas music at this point. And the fact that this is the only holiday song that falls on this list just speaks to how much of a banger this song is. And the thing about it is, like, obviously it gets the bump around Christmas and, all the holiday parties and people listening to it while they're wrapping or decorating. But if you even took Christmases out and then you just kind of like filled it in with like, for my birthday, obviously it's not as catchy, but like just it's a great pop song. It's just
Hmm.
a awesome song in general. So uh easily made my top five. And it was like one of the clear like stop me in my track moments when I was listening to this, because I didn't even think about a Christmas song falling into the billions
Yeah.
club, and then I was like, oh yeah, this makes so much sense.
Right. Well, it's actually kind of funny too. If you can go on Wikipedia, there's a list, which would be the most streamed songs in a single day. And number two on that list is All I Want for Christmas Is You, Christmas Eve 2021, 17.4 million in one day, about 2.5 million behind Easy on Me when that came out last year. I would not be shocked if All I Want for Christmas Is You sets that record again this coming Christmas Eve, because again, more people will have Spotify now than they did that time. And if you look at this list too, number four is Last Christmas by Wham, Christmas Eve
Mhm.
2020. Number eight, Christmas Eve 2020 is Santa Tell Me by Ariana Grande. Number nine, Rock Around the Christmas Tree, Brenda Lee, Christmas Eve last year. Number 10, Jingle Bell Rock, Christmas Eve last year. You can keep going. It is actually, I think, kind of funny to see Christmas dominate the single day records, but
Yeah.
makes complete sense. And I think what's really, I think, kind of almost underrated now about All I Want for Christmas Is You is that it's an original Christmas song, not a cover, an original
Mhm.
Christmas song that ascended right into the canon when it came out,
Yes.
30 years ago almost. Like, Christmas songs have always been covers. And I guess Ariana deserves a little credit as well for Santa Tell Me, kind of doing the same thing to a lesser degree. But like, it's hard to make a brand new original Christmas song hit in that manner. I think big part of that's of course Mariah's vocal strength, things like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's completely justified. Like, I don't get tired of it.
No, me neither. And every time it comes on at like a Christmas party, it just brings the house down. Everybody knows the words. Everybody loves it. It's undeniable song. All right, Dave. Number three for you.
Yeah, number three for me is it's the most popular rock band of the 21st century, perhaps under remarked upon, but that would be Linkin Park's "In the End." Uh,
Chester.
yeah, "In the End," of course, from their debut album Hybrid Theory, their best record, and this and I believe Numb as well for Meteora, both are over a billion. I think "In the End" is a really good example of why Linkin Park was so popular starting in the early 2000s, because it's a great example of the two vocal stylings of that band. Chester Bennington's anguished, raw, emotional singing, and then Mike Shinoda's rap rock rapping. It's a great example of both, but also a great showcase for the appeal of Chester Bennington's vocals too. And I think Linkin Park is a band that, for me, I think creatively really got away from this after from like 2007 on, basically, and was not an interesting band to me from that point forward. But they were a really successful band throughout their existence until Chester passed. Obviously, they were a stadium band worldwide. They're the best selling band since the year 2000. It's kind of crazy to think about that way, because I feel like the critics were out on the band long ago, but they've really stood the test of time. I think that those early first two records, particularly Hybrid Theory, particularly your song like, In the End, I think really kind of capture like a different time, right? Because we don't hear rock music that's anything like early Linkin Park these days, but it is kind of cool to see that that early Linkin Park that was so revered is still as popular now as it was obviously back in the day pre-streaming.
A great pick. Would not have been my Linkin Park pick. I was going to pick Numb
Hmm.
actually. So I think it's kind of you know whatever your taste is for them,
Yeah,
but you can't really go wrong with either. They're both undeniable.
it's honestly not my favorite song of theirs. I would have loved to pick One Step Closer, but that's at like 400
Mm,
million. So
yeah,
alas, here we are.
only 600 million more spins, and then we can talk about it on here. Um, Dave, do you remember in 2003 buying Elephant, the newest album from the White Stripes, and hitting play?
Can't say I do.
Well, I very clearly remember this in my mind because I had my CD player, I had my over the head headphones,
Hmm.
and
Was that a Walkman or do you have a knockoff of some kind?
I don't even remember. All I know it was silver and very old looking. I think it was actually passed down to me from probably my siblings at that point, so it wasn't anything special. Um, but man, the moment that Seven Nation Army came on, I just fucking I hit open on the CD player. I hit skip to go back, and I replayed it because Seven Nation Army, my number three, is an absolutely undeniable rock classic and a song that is honestly just accepted into the zeitgeist all around the world at this point. And it's one of the most recognizable rock songs of the last 25 years. Um, it's it's incredible to hear it chanted by crowds at stadiums. It's incredible how you can just hear that beginning, the dum 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 dum, and everybody just immediately is into it. And Jack White, we talked about him a lot in the podcast this year, and over the course of our time doing this, um, I think he would probably look at Seven Nation Army and say, "Yeah, it's one of the more popular songs I've made. Probably not one of his best songs. It's fairly simple for him, other than obviously his incredible solo on it. But to take his talent and basically boil it down to this simplicity and have it be a song that is just an earworm and just a song that has become so beloved. It's incredible, honestly. So, Seven Nation Army, my number three. Um, what's your number two?
And it's a great pick, and there's a lot of I think picks from like that point forward that are kind of like a similar vibe that you could make. But I think that was one that really stood out to me as kind of an obvious contender.
Mhm.
Number two for me is I believe the only Kanye West song on Billions Club,
Yeah.
which would be Stronger. Graduation, people know it. It's one of the best Kanye songs for sure, but also one of the most popular. And I think why it's most popular, obviously the Daft Punk sample, very obvious, very familiar at this point. Um, but it also is coming from one of, if not the most populist Kanye albums. When you really think down on it, we did our Kanye album rankings last year. Graduation was neither of our number ones, but it's probably most people's top three, like,
Hmm.
and I think a big part of that is Stronger and Flashing Lights. So it's a really catchy song, really up tempo song. Kanye's awesome on it. And then the Daft Punk sample is just like ingenious, honestly.
Yeah. It's an amazing song. Played it at my wedding. We got to pick one Kanye song we agreed, and that was the one we chose. So, um, it deserves to be on the list. I was surprised there weren't more Kanye songs. If there was another one that you thought would have made the Billions Club, which one would it have been?
So I'm just looking at it now. Paris is at 951, so that'll get there.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I guess Gold Digger, probably censored
Yeah.
version, I would have thought was a contender for this. But the more you think about it, it's not like Kanye has a slew of number ones or anything like that.
Hmm.
He's never been Drake.
Yeah.
So I get maybe Power stands out. I'm
Power
just trying to
was what I was thinking of.
yeah,
But yeah,
Heartless perhaps.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Heartless is at
when
600, pretty far off.
when you talk about Kanye, it's about the totality of the work a lot of the time rather than it is the singles really popping off, like you said. So great choice. My number two, we're going back in time now. So we started with 2020. We moved into, I guess, the 90s with Mariah. We then jumped into the 2000s. Now we're back into the 90s, the early 90s, 1991. Nirvana's Nevermind comes out, and Smells Like Teen Spirit just becomes the anthem of the grunge phase of rock in the 90s. And has maybe one of the most recognizable guitar licks of all time. One of the most recognizable openings. Uh, really, I think, established the Nirvana, but especially Cobain as just this like visionary in this space. His vocals are so iconic in this, and you think about the like refrain when the chorus is breaking down and just the dun 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 dun. Like there's so many moments to it, and then you get this incredible solo from Cobain in the second half, and it's like it was the first song that came on when I hit shuffle on the playlist, and I honestly just like I was on a run and I was like losing my shit. It was incredible. Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Hmm.
Honestly, not my favorite Nirvana song, but man, if you don't like Smells Like Teen Spirit, you just like don't appreciate good music, in my opinion. So it's a good litmus test, in my opinion. Dave, what do you think about that as number two on my list?
Yeah, I think that's a excellent pick. Perhaps a bit surprising to me that this would be all the way up at a billion, honestly,
Yeah.
because Nirvana obviously far predates the internet giving you music in any fashion. So uh, I guess it really speaks to Nirvana's ongoing influence. But also, I think that's a song that has kind of gotten bigger than Nirvana itself. Like it's
Hmm.
just in terms of like it's a bit more mainstream than
Yeah.
you would perhaps associate with their other big hits.
Yeah, that and Lithium are the two that really stand out to me as like moving past Nirvana as a band and more just as accepted into the culture. But we're down to our number ones. What do you got?
Yes, my number one. I picked a late '70s song already with Earth, Wind, and Fire, September, and I'm doing it again with 1978's "Don't Stop Me Now,"
Yeah.
Queen. My favorite Queen song. I was very happy to see this has a billion streams. I think Bohemian Rhapsody, the film with Rami Malek, has a lot to do with this, but Queen is gigantic on streaming, and Queen is the biggest legacy band on streaming, like easily.
Mhm.
Bohemian Rhapsody is almost at 2 billion streams. Like, song's as big as it's ever been, as far as a life post the actual time of Queen. And I think for me, "Don't Stop Me Now" has always been my favorite Queen song ever since. Gosh, I don't know when I first heard the band. I must have been in like God, early teenage years for sure. And I
Mhm.
remember just running this MP3 back constantly, and because it's just so catchy, so up tempo, so fun, and it's an awesome Freddie performance, like so many of their hits, obviously. But there's a
Yep.
lot of contenders because there are many songs that Queen has over a billion now. Under Pressure, another one bites the dust. Rhapsody, I think Bohemian Rhapsody has a billion streams twice because there's the initial remaster of 2011, and then they put that on the Bohemian Rhapsody soundtrack. So there's like two entries for
Yeah.
it, and I think both of those have a billion, as far as I
Jeez.
know. We Will Rock You's over 900. That'll get there, of course. Queen, I think, is kind of transcended above whatever critical opinion people had of the band who were there at the time, because so many of these songs are just so big in the culture, right? We Will Rock You, a staple of every sporting event till the end of time. You know,
Absolutely. Queen is probably the band from the past, 40, 50 years that has been able to reassert themselves into modern culture, and just I think it speaks to the strength of their singles. You look back and those records maybe aren't in full form something that you want to talk about, but yeah, the singles are just all there. It's so funny because I think I had another one bites the dust and Under Pressure as the two I would have picked. I love that Bowie um
Mhm.
guest backup vocals on Under Pressure, and verse actually, but yeah, great pick. And Don't Stop Me Now, another fun wedding song, but just a great song in general. My number one,
Oh, I
oh,
just
go
want
ahead.
one last note too on Queen. You would think, are Queen actually the most popular band from the past? Not necessarily, but we must remember, and you'd have no way of knowing this if you don't remember this or didn't look it up. The Beatles did not join Spotify
True.
until like 2016. So they are
Yeah.
just behind the ball with getting the streams. That being said, Here Comes the Sun is approaching 900. Over time, I'm sure more Beatles songs will hit a billion, but that's a big reason why they actually have zero songs with a billion stream at this time. They just weren't in the game
Just weren't in the
as
game.
long as others. So it's a big factor in being available to be streamed, obviously. And that's largely not a thing anymore, but it was a thing not too long ago where bands were not on digital streaming platforms. I think Zeppelin
Yeah.
had a similar thing with iTunes back in the day.
Rolling Stones are not even really that close. Painted Black is 760 million. So they got a
Right.
ways to go. Um, my number one though, just switching gears quick, is someone from around this time, and that's Fleetwood Mac. And
Mm,
when Rumors dropped in 1977, uh, they dropped to the single Dreams as their second single. And man, Dreams is one of my favorite songs of all time. It's probably one of the most lauded and appreciated songs from one of the most lauded and appreciated albums of all time. There's not really a lot to say about Dreams other than like it's Fleetwood Mac just firing on all cylinders. You got Stevie Nicks with her like sultry tones. You have awesome synchronization of the instruments and the vocals all and swelling around the chorus. And man, just these lyrics that are it's kind of like hard to say like, oh, the olden times were better, because I think that so many aspects of um, culture and about music and movies and everything just increasingly is better now than it was then, and that might be my own biases, but like I I don't think they write vocals like they used to. And Dreams is what they don't write, lyrics like they used to. I mean, and Dreams is like the epitome of that, where like the meaning of it all and just like the metaphor around it all is just something you don't really hear a lot today. So Dreams is just in general is one of the best songs of all time in my opinion. So it had to be
And
my number one.
and of course, this song had a huge comeback in 2020 when it exploded on TikTok.
Oh, right, with the skateboarding guy. I
Yeah,
totally forgot about that with the cranberry juice. Oh yeah. Wow.
and
That's early pandemic days.
but that's obviously like when the internet's at its best when it brings a classic that is already adored to new people who then discover it and find out they too adore that song as well.
Right. Exactly. Well, that
We're
wraps
seeing
up
we're seeing
our.
this right now with Kate Bush, who's not at a billion yet, but it's kind of the same thing. Where like uh, what is old can become new again. There's a lot of scholarship on this right now of how this is happening with the internet,
Mhm.
and older music is being streamed just as much as newer music for honestly the first time in the streaming landscape. So we'll probably slowly see more old school classics approach these thresholds as well. So something to
Mhm.
keep an eye on.
Dave, that wraps up our top fives. But are there any songs you just wanted to shout out real quick?
Yeah, so apart from the ones we've both talked about, there were some other, I think, solid honorable mentions. I think Mr. Brightside's an obvious one.
Yep.
AC/DC had two of my favorite songs on there, Back in Black, Highway to Hell,
Mhm.
Living on a Prayer, Bon Jovi, Michael Jackson, Billie Jean. Um, the best Eminem songs, early stuff, actually, are the ones that have a billion, which was, I think, warmed my heart because I had not been a fan for a long time. But Real Slim Shady, Without Me, Till I Collapse were all up there. Two songs that I wish had a billion, I would have picked them, but are both like 800 plus would be Gaga's Bad Romance and Biggie's Hypnotize. Love those.
Yep.
Um, J. Cole surprisingly has over a billion for No Role Models, which is my favorite Cole song. But that was cool. I didn't quite expect him to be that high. Um, and then I think Drake, kind of obviously, One Dance and God's Plan are the top ones for him. But yeah, I think it's really interesting to look at this playlist because there's a lot of like the like playlist core stuff that almost is like designed or now fits in that mold of it. This was designed to be an earworm to
Mhm.
be listened to all the time, which quite conveniently means it's going to be streamed over and over again. So a lot of stuff kind of comes in mind when you look at that list. They're very similar thoughts about the song, right? Like Sweet But Psycho, Ava Max, Sorry,
Yeah.
Justin Bieber, The Middle, Zed and Maren Morris. Songs like that, like it makes complete sense why those have a billion plus streams, right? Because those are just
Right.
songs that people just keep hitting play on because there's something about them that makes people want to revisit them to that overwhelming catchiness.
Totally. I just want to shout out a couple songs that weren't mentioned. Billie Jean, Michael Jackson was one that was in contention for me. It was nice to see Arctic Monkeys and Tame Impala each get a song on there with uh, "Do I Want to Know" and "The Less I Know, the Better," respectively. Bruno Mars, a couple songs, but I really love "Locked Out of Heaven." Just a absolute banger from our guy. And yeah, there are a couple EDM songs stood out. Titanium and Lean On from Getta and Major Lazer. And then also Cardi B WAP was one that stood out to me as well. It's
Yeah.
like, man, that song was really everywhere. Great song, honestly.
Kind of funny that the only Elton John song with a billion streams
Yeah.
would be Cold Heart Pina remix, which is just the redoing of Rocket Man, but none of his actual old school hits actually have a billion, just the redux that is Cold Heart.
Yeah, unfortunately. But yeah, that's our top five. Give us what your top five would be. There's a lot to choose from. These lists can look very different depending on what your taste
Mhm.
is. So let us
Right.
know.